Welcome, everybody. So glad to be here with all of you tonight. It's a late night stream, but we're still here. It's getting to be summer weather, and if you're like me, you stay up late in summertime. And if you're in another time zone, it might not be so late, or might be even later. But regardless, we're here and we're gonna have a great time tonight. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell, and away we go.
Century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome. So glad to be here with all of you tonight. We do have a number of things to talk about. Tonight is going to be a little more of a serious live stream. I would argue that today was not a good day for the working class of the United States, for the people of the world. But we've got to talk about some serious things, so we're going to talk about them. Yeah, for those of you who may not be familiar with how this works on these shows, on these live streams, I give my opening remarks. That's like the first hour or so. And then I do the roll call, where I call you all out as I see you, names and locations. And then from there, I answer your super chat questions for the rest of the night. So if there's something you would like me to talk about in the second half of our show, shoot me a super chat, and I will write it down during the first half of our show, and I'll add it to the list. And then the second half of the show is just me answering super chats. That is how it works. So if you want me to talk about something, send me a super chat. I'll be writing down super chats and answering them in the second half of the program. So I'll just jump right into the opening remarks. Folks, a horrendous thing happened today. This afternoon, the U.S. Department of Justice announced that it is bringing criminal charges against the African People's Socialist Party and the Democratic Uhuru movement. 4 leaders of that organization, one who's a former leader of that organization, the other 3 that are current members of that organization, have been charged and are facing up to 10 years in federal prison for nothing, for not committing a crime. It's horrendous. It's utterly horrendous what they are charging them with. And if you read the press release from the U.S. Department of Justice, if you read it, it is utterly obvious that these people have not committed a crime. It wasn't enough. Last August, they stormed into their homes with drones, with guns drawn. They cuffed these people. They held them at gunpoint. And now they have formally charged them. They are facing 10 years in prison. They're claiming that they conspired to act as Russian agents. They're using the Foreign Agents Registration Act against them. But if you look at the indictment, and I've got the official the statement from the Department of Justice. If you look at it, they didn't do anything that violates U.S. law. They're not accusing them of any crimes. Let me just show you. I got here. This is the screenshot of the official indictment from the U.S. Department of Justice. This is what it says. It says this Russian guy Ionov used the African People's Socialist Party to promote Russian propaganda relating to Ukraine, allegedly continued after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The day Russia invaded Ukraine, February 24th, 22, Ionov allegedly emailed Neville an urgent message which contained pro-Russian talking points in support of the invasion. Thereafter, throughout March of 2022, the APSP hosted Ionov via video conference to discuss the war, during which Ionov falsely stated that anyone who supported the war was also supporting Nazism and white supremacy. And Yeshitela and other APSP member allegedly made statements in solidarity with the Russian government. Where's the crime? Show me where the crime in that is. So somebody in Russia, who they're friends with, called them up and told them his side of the story, and they had Zoom calls, and they let a Russian guy tell the Russian side of the story. Where is the crime? They had video conference calls with a Russian guy, and they let him tell their side of the story, and they agreed with him. They took a principled anti-imperialist position. There is no crime here. That is not a crime. Having a video conference call is not a crime by any means. I am not seeing the crime. There's no crime here. You had a conference call to discuss the war from a pro-Russian perspective. That is not a crime. The fact that this is even listed in the Department of Justice, like they're mentioning this. We're supposed to have freedom of speech in this country. We're supposed to have freedom of assembly, freedom of the press. So you have a friend in Russia and you organize a Zoom call, a video conference call to let him say his point of view, and that's a crime? That's a crime? That is unbelievable. But I'll show you. This is from the official, this is when the Department of Justice announced it's charging them. They had to write a press release about why. That's a paragraph from it. I'm going to show you another paragraph from it. I'm going to show you another paragraph from it. Right? Here we go. Here's another paragraph from it. One focus of Ionov's alleged influence operation was to create the appearance of American popular support for Russia's annexation of territories in Ukraine. For example, in May of 2020, Ionov allegedly sent a request he stated was from the Russia Donetsk People's Republic, a reference to Russian-occupied region in eastern Ukraine, to Yeshitela and members of U.S. political groups to make statements in support of independence of the so-called Donetsk People's Republic, a Russian breakaway state. Ionov later touted to the Russian security services, FSB, that Yeshitela's video recorded statement in support of that was the first time an American nonprofit organization congratulated the citizens of the occupied region. Again, what is the crime here? So their friend in Russia, who is a supporter of the people of Donetsk, who voted to break away from the government in Kiev, asked them, hey, can you make a video to say you support these people that voted to break away from Ukraine? And so they made one. What's the crime? There's no crime. Where's the crime here? I mean, they're criminalizing a view of world politics. The African People's Socialist Party has always opposed U.S. imperialism. They've always supported the Soviet Union and China and now modern Russia. They are an anti-imperialist, Marxist, African People's Socialist, Black nationalist organization. There's no crime here. They made a video stating their views. No crime listed. There is no crime here. The fact that these two paragraphs are even there, what did they do wrong? They did nothing wrong. They did absolutely nothing wrong. They have an opinion of the confrontation in Ukraine that is also my opinion, that the people of Donetsk have the right to break away from a government that's been murdering them for 8 years. They have the right to have Russia move in and protect them from a U.S.-backed regime that's been slaughtering them for where's the crime? I am not seeing a crime here. The only thing in the indictment that even sounds like a real crime is they allege that the election campaign that the Uhuru movement ran. They ran one of their members for office, for local office in Florida. They're claiming that that was, funded and directed by Russia. Well, it wasn't, and they can prove that it wasn't, right? They've been running candidates for years. They can prove that that was not the case. It was not funded by Russia. But regardless, that's not even the focus of the indictment. The indictment is they had a video conference call with some Russians. The indictment is that they made a video to offer congratulations to the people of Donetsk and Luhansk. That's all they've got, right? And then they allege, and they ran for office and they lost. I mean, they're a third party. They ran for office on a platform of reparations. They ran for office on a platform of reparations, and they ran an election campaign. They're trying to say that Russia directed their election campaign, which is ridiculous because they've been running candidates for office for years, and they always sound the same. And, they've had their same message about unity through reparations. They've had that message for years, and we'll get to that. This is an attack on anybody in the United States who has an anti-imperialist worldview. Jimmy Dore, Kim Iverson, Tara Reid, Jackson Hinkle, Haas. This is an attack on everyone in the United States who has a different opinion of geopolitics. If you have a Zoom call, they'll indict you for it. It's shocking. It's shocking what they are doing here. And there needs to be widespread outrage about this. There's no real crime here. It is not a crime to have a video Zoom call. It is not a crime. Absolutely not a crime. Not a crime to make a video supporting the people who choose to break away from a US-backed fascist government. This is unbelievable. There is no crime in this indictment. All they're accused of is having their own views, having a friend in Russia who agrees with them and allegedly helped support them in stating things that they already said. And, there's another super chat. This is unbelievable. And this is a test case. They're going to try and see if they can get away with this. They're going to try and see if the courts will let them get away with this. They're going to try to see, before they went after Maria Butina, they went after her, alleging that she was a foreign agent because she had a boyfriend who was in the NRA or whatever. Now they're trying it out on U.S. citizens. They want to criminalize anti-imperialist speech. They want to criminalize stating Russia or China's perspective on international events. This is a huge attack on civil liberties. And there's a whole history of black revolutionaries in America being accused of being Russian agents. They did it with Martin Luther King Jr. There's a whole documentary claiming that we shall overcome and venceremos are the same word, and that proves the Cuban Revolution and Dr. Martin Luther King are part of a Soviet plot. This is a huge attack, and everybody should be speaking up about this. There should be a widespread mobilization. And what scares me the most is how many so-called leftists, so-called anti-racists, so-called progressives aren't saying anything. Or worse, are supporting this. And I'm actually going to pull up one of them here, right? This is classic. This is absolutely classic, right? And I'm pulling this one up. I don't know who this guy is, but this was his reaction. This is Ragnarok Lobster. He says, remember that absurd pro-Russia rally in Chicago led by Caleb Maupin back in August 22? The pro-Russia group listed in this indictment were there. Of course they were there. Of course they were there, you idiot.
because if a group of black revolutionaries have their homes raided by the FBI, I, as an anti-imperialist, am going to stand with them. Damn right they were there, and we were honored to have them there and honored to give them as much support as we possibly could. Yeah, and then he posts the video like he's gotcha. No, we're proud. This is the video he posted. We are proud that they came to our conference the week after they were raided by the FBI. We hosted them and honored them at our conference. This is what the Center for Political Innovation did at our conference.
Forward this vision of rebuilding America with popular power, breaking out of their globalist financial system, we must oppose all political repression. The deep state is moving in on too many people right now, threatening their rights. And that is why we absolutely condemn the horrendous FBI raids carried out against the African People's Socialist Party, the Uhuru House, and Chairman Omala. From that organization here today to show that we are not afraid, we are not intimidated, and that we offer nothing but unequivocal full support and solidarity to them while they're under attack. Please stand up, comrades. Come on the stage, please. Labeling black revolutionaries and civil rights activists as agents of Russia is one of the dirtiest tricks of the U.S. deep state. They called Martin Luther King Jr. a Soviet agent. They called the Nation of Islam foreign agents. And we are here today to say that black people have the right to organize, fight for their rights however they choose, and that the U.S. government has no right to call them Russian agents or repress them in any way. The FBI raids must now stop. Must stop immediately now. Stop the raids.
Yeah, we're proud to stand in solidarity with them. I don't know who this lobster clown is, but he thinks, oh, I've got you. No, we were honored that they were able to come to our conference right after they got raided by the FBI. People have no idea how dangerous this situation is, but Tulsi Gabbard has warned us about the Biden administration. This is Tulsi Gabbard recently.
That the Democrat elite in permanent Washington are able and willing to use the power of law enforcement to go after and target their political opponents. Everyone from parents who have the audacity to go and attend a school board meeting because they're concerned about their children's education, all the way to a former president, is evidence that our country is no longer a functioning democracy or truly a free country. It's time for us, we the people, to vote out these anti-democracy politicians and take our country back.
Yeah, I mean, it's very clear that the Biden administration is weaponizing the U.S. Department of Justice. And I am convinced, this is not simply an act of repression of anti-imperialists. I mean, it is that. It is certainly that. But I am convinced that Biden and his wing of the Democratic Party, they have had it in for the Uhuru movement for a long time. Because I remember back in 2008, that was a long time ago, but in 2008, I was politically active. And I remember how the Uhuru movement were brave enough. They were one of the only leftist, Marxist activist groups that was brave enough to challenge Obama, to not tell people, oh, we were told in the Workers' World Party, Larry Holmes, Monica Moorhead, those clowns, they're all just like, oh, you can't criticize Obama. You can't criticize Obama because that's offensive to black people. Oh, we need to show support for the black community and what it means. They're clowns. They are utter clowns. But I didn't miss your super chat. I wrote it down now. Come on now. But the Uhuru movement and Black Alliance for Peace, they knew what Obama was from the beginning. And when Obama was speaking in St. Petersburg, Florida, where the Uhuru movement has a lot of supporters, they challenged Obama for being a fraud and for not really being a friend of the black community and the black movement. And so this is what happened. And I am convinced this is vengeance. This is revenge. That Biden was running for vice president, and the fact that they were urging the black community not to support him, and they were telling the black community that Obama was a fraud. This is what happened.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jeff Blake and the next president of the United States, Senator Barack Obama.
Thank you. Thank you, St. Petersburg. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. In recent years, we've learned that basic truth, that you can't have a thriving Wall Street if you don't have a thriving Main Street. And we've had somebody...
Fraud Obama was, by the way. Every single promise he made, you know, single payer health care, and he was going to make life better for Americans. What a fraud Obama was.
In office, he doesn't seem to care about what's going on Main Street. Special interests put their thumbs on the scales and distort the free market and work their get tax loopholes and tax havens in the tax code. Then everybody suffers. And when our government fails, hold on a second. What's happening there? Hold on a second.
That's the Uhuru movement. That's the people that just got indicted.
And when our That's all right. That's all right. Listen. Excuse me. And when our... Hey. Hold on a second. You'll have a chance to answer your question, but you don't want to disrupt the whole meeting. Just be courteous, that's all.
They were right. Everyone knows they were right.
That's all.
Everyone knows they were right. Obama was not the savior.
Just be courteous and you'll have a chance to make your statement. Just relax. That's all. Just relax. You'll have a chance. All right. What was I talking about? Now, I'm announcing a two-part emergency plan to help struggling families make ends meet. First part of my plan is a $1,000 emergency energy rebate that would go out to families this fall to cover rising prices, not only in gas, but also in home fuel. Now, the second part of my plan is $50 billion in stimulus to help jumpstart job creation and help local communities that are struggling due to our economic downturn.
Why is it that you have not had the ability to not one time speak to the interests and even speak on behalf of the oppressed and exploited African community or black community in this country?
On each of these issues that you mentioned, I have spoken out, and I've spoken out forcefully. These are issues I've worked on for decades. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to always satisfy the way you guys want these issues framed, and I understand it. Which gives you the option of voting for somebody else. It gives you the option to run for office yourself. But
vote for somebody else in a two-party dictatorship here in the United States. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Vote for somebody else. Just vote for somebody else. He's taunting them there. You can't, right? Vote for me or vote for the Republicans, you know? That's the evil. That's the evil of this.
These are issues I've worked on for decades. Now, that doesn't of voting for somebody else. It gives you the option to run for office yourself. But those are all options.
Can you please speak to those family members and those service members who are decorated war veterans who are coming back wounded, injured, and have no recourse?
We owe a sacred duty to our veterans to treat them as well as they've treated us, to serve them as well as they've served us. No more homeless veterans. We will give them housing. We will give them substance abuse programs. We will give them mental health services. We are going to get our veterans off the streets because they are the heroes that have kept us free. All right. This is the most important election of my lifetime or your lifetime. We have some serious choices to make. And just ask yourself, when you go into that polling place, or when you're talking to your friends or neighbors, do you think we can afford to keep on doing the same things we've been doing over the last...
Yeah, that was a very big moment, you know, during the election when the Uhuru movement stood up to Barack Obama in St. Petersburg, Florida, and they confronted him. And they disrupted his rally, and they wouldn't go along with the memo that got sent out that, oh, all black activists in America have to pretend to support Obama, or at least call, you know, Barack Obama a great hero. The Workers' World Party, they went along with it, right? They led the American working class off a cliff. You know, they were promoting, they were part of the Obamania, you know, that went on. But the Uhuru movement, Black Alliance for Peace, they didn't go along with it. And I think that is why they've been on the hit list of the Democratic Party and the prosecutors for a long time. When Obama first got into office, his prosecutors raided the homes of the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, a communist group that they alleged had ties to the Palestinian resistance. And then now it appears that the Biden administration is going after the Uhuru movement. This is really unbelievable, and there needs to be widespread outrage. Now, one of our members at the Center for Political Innovation, he actually was able to go and you know, speak to Assange's father about it, and Assange's father, you know, signed on and gave support to the Uhuru movement. This is John McCarthy, one of our members.
Attacked their offices at 5 in the morning, their offices and their homes, with battering rams, drones, flashbang grenades, right? They seized their computers and their papers, right? And since then, they've actually shut down some of their bank accounts, and they've even gone so far as to prevent one of their leaders from boarding an airplane, right? And there's a site that describes this, handsoffuhuru.org. If people go there, there's a petition you can sign, there's a legal defense fund you can contribute to, and I would say, like with the case with Julian, by defending them, we're defending ourselves, because America is saying that telling the truth about war, in both of these cases, they're saying telling the truth about war is a crime, that it's the same as terrorism, right?
Yeah, thanks. It's a good point you've made, you know, that drawing together these elements of oppression and these elements of compression of the First Amendment and the consequence with those raids, the destruction of the Bill of Rights, is really important, and we work together on this matter. And that's the reason why in my conversation we use an umbrella that covers everybody, that it covers left, right, it covers the Republicans, it covers the Democrats. To be able to say freely what you mean to each other is vital. And so we move forward unified, and that unified and solidarity, that unification and solidarity, within that we will prevail.
We either hang together or hang separately.
Yeah. Look, folks, I will tell you the truth. You know, if you read this Department of Justice statement condemning the Uhuru movement, explaining why they're facing these criminal charges, why they could go to prison for 10 years for nothing, you actually read the statement. The phrase they keep using over and over and over again is sowing discord. They say they were sowing discord on behalf of Russia, sowing discord. And if you look at the activities that the Uhuru movement engages in, they are not sowing discord. They're doing the opposite. Their slogan is unity through reparations. And they're using money that is donated by white people to start farmers markets in the black community, to provide medical services in the black community, to try and build infrastructure for people. That's what they have been doing. Their slogan, unity through reparations, is about bringing people together. They have a very big group of white supporters, their white supporters organization. The leader of it is a guy named Jesse Neville, who has been formally indicted. He's one of the people indicted, is Jesse Neville, the leader of their white solidarity organization. Omali Yeshitala, the founder, Penny, and Ghazi, a member who broke away and started his own group. They have indicted all four of them for basically taking care of people, providing services to people. And it's so crazy because I'm reading about the indictments, and I then I go to the gym after I saw the indictments. I'm working out at the gym, and I'm on the TV, and I'm watching, on the TV. I got my headphones on, but I'm watching on the TV. They're accusing the Uhuru movement of sowing discord because they set up healthcare clinics, because they set up a farmer's market, because they educate people about the truth about Russia and Ukraine and what's really going on there. But then I turn on the TV and MSNBC is talking about this case, this tragic case where this young man went to the wrong house and somebody shot him. It's a horrible case. Sounds like something wrong was done. I don't know the details of exactly what happened, but it looks to me like, someone was shot who shouldn't have been shot. It was a wrongful act of aggression, murder, possibly murder, homicide. Someone was killed who shouldn't have been killed, who didn't deserve to die. But they're using that case to try and stir up discord in the country, right? They're saying, oh, the problem is these white people have guns. These white people have guns. We got to take guns away from white conservatives because they have guns. We got Biden making statements. They're all out there marching. And it's like, I'm looking at it and they're not saying this is a racial injustice. They're not trying to heal the community and bring people back together around it. They're agitating like crazy around this case. At the same time that the people in the black community that are feeding people, the people in the black community that are taking care of people, providing services to people, those people are indicted. And you look at it, at this point, this is what you need to understand. And this is a little bit of a deeper point, but it's a point that I make in my new book, Where is America Going? At this point, they are threatened by all forms of illiberalism. They want absolute chaos so that they can have control. They want to break down all connections. They want to break down all institutions. They're not afraid of people being in the streets and protesting. They're not afraid of hashtag revolution. They're not afraid of people seeing protests on CNN, getting the memo, going to one in their neighborhood. They're afraid of political infrastructure. They are afraid of real organizations that sink their roots into communities, that provide services and care for people. That's why they killed Fred Hampton for his free breakfast program. That's why the FBI said that the free breakfast program was the greatest threat to the internal security of the United States. They're not afraid of people just going out and breaking shit. They're not afraid of that. They're afraid of real communities. They're afraid of communities of solidarity. They're afraid of organized resistance. That's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of people coming together, caring for each other, and making political demands. That's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of any block of solidarity forming. They want us all atomized and broken down. That's why. That is absolutely why they have tried their hardest to break apart any real solid organization. Whether it's a black people, whether it's a religious organization, they want people to be completely atomized. They're not afraid of hashtag revolution, of people just going out and breaking shit when it's trendy on social media. They're afraid of real organizations, real political infrastructure. They fear our love for one another. That's how Funky's putting it. I think that's a good way of putting it. They fear any real bonds being formed among the population. That is what they are afraid of. And they're doing everything they can to break it apart. You know, Netflix is always running another documentary about cults. Oh my God, it's a cult. You know, Steve Hassan's on there saying, don't be brainwashed. Be sure to just look at Twitter and Facebook. Let them brainwash you. You know, this is a very effective operation. They're trying to completely atomize the population so that they can set up their degrowth fascism and march us into World War III. And that's why the most revolutionary thing you can do in this time is form an organization, is join a community, because that is what they are trying to destroy. That is what they're trying to destroy. They didn't go after the groups that just go out and break stuff. They didn't go after groups that just, you know, have protests and all of that. They went after a group that feeds people. They went after a group that provides, you know, services, midwife services to pregnant women, to pregnant mothers. They went to a group that's slogan is unity through reparations, healing the relationship between the Black community and the white community. Now, I don't necessarily agree with their political line, right? Their line, they see white workers as primarily beneficiaries of imperialism. They view the issue as being colonialism rather than imperialism. There are differences in line, but it doesn't matter. We have to support them, and we have to learn that it's the work that they are doing to feed people, to care for people. That is why they're being targeted, because that is the essence of what revolution means in our time. In our time, the essence of revolution is building communities of solidarity. It's building blocks of resistance to hold people together. And they are doing everything they can to inoculate people against that, to try and incite people against each other, divide people, make people scared of each other, atomize people, break people down. That's what they're trying to do. And, you know, I don't try to give attention to wreckers, but I do want to briefly touch on one aspect of this, because, you know, 3 of the members that are indicted, you know, they're members of the Uhuru movement. Jesse Neville is with the People's Democratic, with the White Solidarity Organization, right? The Democratic Uhuru movement. Chairman O'Malley is the chairman of the African People's Socialist Party. Penny, she's a Uhuru member. And then there's one other guy named Ghazi. And Ghazi was in the Uhuru movement, but he broke away. He formed a separate group called Black Hammer that did a lot of provocative stuff on social media. And I dumped on Black Hammer in my BreadTube book because of some of the stuff they do on social media I don't approve of. But regardless, I mean, what he's charged for in this indictment, there's no actual crimes in this indictment. Now, he elsewhere has been charged with actual crimes. I don't know the details of this Ghazi guy. I don't know the details about the stuff. There was some house and there was a gun, and I don't know the details there. But this federal indictment is bullshit. It's complete bullshit. You know, I mean, there are no crimes here. There are absolutely no crimes here. This is just exercising free speech. And thank you, John. John, no one has worked harder in our organization, CPI. And, you know, please listen to John and do everything you can to support them. Everything. Here, I'll write down this other one too. And you know, when the Black Hammer thing happened, the initial raid on Black Hammer, and there was like somebody who died inside their house or something. I didn't know the details, but I was sickened. I was absolutely sickened to see all of social media cheering for their arrest. And I said, what kind of world is this, where people that call themselves communists, people call themselves socialists, are celebrating the raid by the government on the homes of black revolutionaries. Now, regardless of what the details of the case are, we don't know what actually happened. We do know they lie all the time. And we do know this is a group that supports Russia and has spoken in support of Russia and is an anti-imperialist organization, some kind of black communist formation, regardless of whatever provocative things they've done. Why in the world are all of the communists on social media cheering for their arrest? And I said that on these streams. I just said, that's all I said, because I don't know the details of what happened with the gun in the house and Black Hammer and all that. And it's a separate organization. They're not part of Uhuru. But regardless, so that happened. And I'll tell you, one of the main people who was one of the engineers of the attack against me lost his mind. He was just so angry. No, we have to support the government arresting Black Hammer. They're cringe. I saw videos on YouTube that they're bad, so we have to support the government going after them. It was insane. I'd never seen anything like it. And he just lost his mind. No, we have to support the FBI going after Black Hammer. We have to support it, even though we don't know the facts of the case, even though the government, because I saw a video where they're cringe. That was one of the main people who launched the vicious attack on our organization in August, was a person who he saw the government raiding the homes of black revolutionaries. And because those black revolutionaries had done provocative things on social media, he had to support it. And I think you all know who I'm talking about. I'm not even going to say his name because he's not worth it. I think it's very telling. Because at the end of the day, that shows that person never really understood what CPI is about. Never really understood it. Because we are against US imperialism. We stand with those who are under attack by the capitalist state. And we don't make political demands on them. He never understood that. But it also may indicate something else. May indicate that he was in touch with different forces. Right? We have done a lot of investigation. We now know that some of the same forces that were involved in attacking me have been attacking the Uhuru movement for a very long time. We also know that these forces, when the Supreme Court ruled in favor of overturning Roe versus Wade, these forces were circulating on the internet a document saying, don't protest in support of Roe versus Wade if PSL or the Revolutionary Communist Party, if they are involved in the protest, because these are cults. And that there is a network of people who call themselves communists that are tied in with the Cult Awareness Network and Dr. Steve Hassan. And they are involved in some very nasty, shady behavior. And that basically what happens is when the US government is preparing to go after somebody, they psych the population up for it first. That's what they do. They psych the population up for it. They fill the internet with propaganda to justify it. They spread rumors about the person. And that's how they justify their crimes. Right? And it appears that this network of people that includes Dr. Steve Hassan, but also includes some people who call themselves communists, some former members of PSL, and some other people I've talked to and been friendly with before because I thought we were on the same side, but we clearly aren't. There is a network of people who are basically involved in government disinformation operations against leftist groups and against other groups, right? And it's for the same reason. They want to make sure that no real infrastructure is formed. And they don't just think that Black Hammer is a cult. They also think Uhuru movement is a cult. They think CPI is a cult. They think PSL is a cult. And that network of people, it appears that the reason that this guy who eventually we found out was the ringleader of the smears and lies that were spread about me, there's a reason that he was heavily in flipping out, that how dare I defend the Uhuru movement, because he was getting instructions from these people. Who's getting instructions from these people? We should be very, very aware that there's a network going on. But there's a network here. There's a network at work. All right. There's a network of people that engage, they set the stage for government repression with disinformation operations. They spread propaganda. And it is one of the most horrifying things to me is that there's a layer of people that they don't understand. They just can't understand that anybody who is a threat to the status quo, a real threat to the status quo, is going to be demonized. There are people who have it in their mind that anybody who's been made fun of on the internet, anyone who's been mocked or smeared, is cringe and can't be the leader of a movement. And it's really bizarre because they will hit anybody. Have you seen what they've done to Nick Brana? Have you seen what they've done to Lyndon LaRouche? Have you seen what they've done to everybody? Scott Ritter, look what they did to Scott Ritter. Anybody who becomes an outspoken anti-imperialist voice, they try to destroy your reputation. They make fun of you. They lie about you. They do everything they can to just destroy your reputation. But there are these people that just can't get that through their heads. And they claim that they agree with Scott Ritter. But they're like, oh, but Scott Ritter's bad because I read about it on the internet. Or they claim that they agree with Nick Brana. Oh, but he's bad because I read it. Or, they claim to agree with me. Oh, but Caleb's bad because blah, blah, blah. And it's like, they don't understand. They just can't comprehend that this happens to everyone. And they also don't understand that just being a communist on the internet isn't a threat to anybody. It's not a threat to the status quo. It's not a threat to capitalism. If you just get on here and talk, if all I did was get on here and talk, wouldn't matter. The reason that the Center for Political Innovation has been targeted, the reason the Uhuru movement has been targeted, the reason Scott Ritter has been targeted, the reason Nick Brana has been targeted is because they're building real organizations. They're connecting people with each other. They're building networks of resistance, communities of solidarity. And that is what the ruling class is terrified of. They don't want to see any real networks, any people coming together, building bonds. They just want everyone on the internet isolated and atomized. And so they're pounding into people's heads. Any organization that's formed is a cult. Any person, that emerges, that's, that is a voice of anti-imperialism in America. Oh, they're cringe. Oh, they're stupid. I'm going to make a video and slow their voice down where they talk so they look silly, as if that's an argument somehow. And there are some people that are just so brainwashed by their phones that it doesn't occur to them. It's like they can't understand. They can't comprehend that that's going to happen. Look, in the lead up to Rage Against the War Machine, they did an all-out psychological operation to try and keep people from going to the rally. And I will tell you, I had people dropping onto my, in the comments. I was deleting the comments, people saying things like, oh, Caleb, we heard about what you said about Haas. People are going to find you at the rally. They're going to beat you up. They're going to mess you up, or Jackson Hinkle's fans are going to get you. It was an all-out psychological operation. It was all-out psychological operation that they were running to make people afraid to go to an in real life event. Right? And I have never seen anything like it. People were trying to incite Haas against me. People were trying to incite Hinkle against me. People were trying to make other people I associate with nervous. I've never seen anything like it. But the algorithm suddenly amped up all of the rivalries, all the rumors, tried to get people to fight with each other, and it worked. I mean, I'll tell you, I know a lot of the people who spoke at the rally. And, you know, it worked. Those people were all fighting with each other, and they were like, oh my God, I can't speak if this person's there. This person, blah, blah, blah. They'll think I'm blah, blah, blah. And it worked, right? And you saw what happened afterwards, how people were talking shit about CPI because we had a Russian flag. And, you know, it works, right? Some people are more susceptible to it than others, I think. But it was an all-out psychological operation because Rage Against the War Machine was a real event. This was a real event, and they don't want the power. When you meet with another person, you can't be as much of an asshole. And then you have to listen to the other person. And it is our human instinct when we're around other human beings to find common ground. Did you know that? It is our human instinct when we're around other people, we naturally find common ground. No, I mean, that doesn't mean humans don't fight and all of that, but humans are a tribal species. And, you know, when you're around other people, your body language starts to sync with their body language a little bit. You start to speak in the way that they're speaking. It's the natural tendency of human beings is when you're around other human beings, you start to connect with them. But when you're on the internet, when you're just a disembodied text on the internet, you don't have to read other people. All your disagreements can get bigger. But when people are around each other in person, they start to bond. They empathize with each other. Human beings naturally empathize with other people. And that's what they don't want. They don't want that. They're afraid of us actually empathizing with each other, actually bonding with other people, actually building real community. And that's why they hate the Uhuru movement, and that's why they hate CPI, and that's why they hate the People's Party. That's why they hated the Rage Against the War Machine rally. And before that rally, they did everything they could to scare people out of coming, to make people afraid to come to that rally. And it's a sick psychological operation. But the reason I'm talking about this is because at the end of the day, look, you have to decide. I can't make you do it, but you have to decide, am I going to be a real anti-imperialist and be part of something, or am I going to be an atomized internet person? And no one can decide for you. You have to decide. But if you decide you're going to be a real anti-imperialist, that means you're going to have to decide to make an effort to get along with people. It means you're going to have to forgive people who let you down. People do the wrong thing. They make mistakes. You're going to have to forgive them for it. You're going to have to admit other people's faults. You're going to have to be in a situation where you might not get what you want. You're also going to have to take the risk of maybe embarrassing yourself. You're going to have to take the risk of trying something and it doesn't work out well. It's hard. It is hard to be a real anti-imperialist. It's not easy. And there's, you know, you don't have to. And everyone can't do it. But if you're going to really be a real anti-imperialist, then you need to make a decision that the psychological operation, the most sinister, evil psychological operation in history is not going to work on you. You just have to say, you know what, come hell or high water. Come hell or high water, I'm in this for real. It doesn't mean I'll always work with the same group. Doesn't mean I'll always work with the same people, but you have to make a decision. I'm in this for real, and I am just not going to let their psyop work on me. I am going to go to real events. I am going to have real connections with other people. I am going to work with people who might disappoint me and let me down in some ways. You have to make a decision, and you have to toughen up. You know, I was telling my friend, I was hanging out with a friend the other night. We were walking around the place that Occupy Wall Street was. I will never forget the day. It was while Occupy Wall Street was going on, and there was a protest we did at Occupy Wall Street. It was called Wall Street is War Street. And I think there might be some video of it. Maybe I can pull up some of the video to show you from that day. Because, you know, we just had a protest. Wall Street is War Street. You know, we went to Occupy Wall Street, you know, and we carried around an anti-war banner. It was a small little demonstration, but, you know, we were part of the Occupy movement. But, you know, a few of my friends came in a van, and they came by, you know, and they let me out, and and there's this church near where Occupy Wall Street was. It's called Trinity Church, and it was near Trinity Church, and they set me, you know, they kind of dropped me off, and they put me there, and I held, like, I had a bundle of like protest signs. I was standing there. I was on the sidewalk. I'm just standing there in front of this church on the sidewalk, public sidewalk with a sign. I'll never forget this security guard woman came out of the church. And she walked out of the church and she's wearing her uniform. And I guess, you know, she was probably sick of Occupy Wall Street protesters, whatever. But I'm on a public street. She walks up to me. I'm holding this bundle of signs, waiting for my other friends to park their van so they can join me at the protest. I'm standing there. I hear the drums of Occupy Wall Street from the distance. I'm standing there. Just a nice day, whatever. I'm standing there and they're drumming. This woman comes up to me, security guard woman. You can't be here. I said, yes, I can. This is a public street. I'm waiting for my friends. No, you can't be here. No, you can't stand here. You can't. No, you give it. I said, this is a public street. I'm waiting for my friends to come meet me, and this is where I'm waiting. I have the right to be here. She's saying, no, you have to move. You have to move. And she's just, you know, she's just being crazy. But I knew my friends needed me to be there. They had told me to wait there. That's where they were meeting me. So I wasn't going to move, and I knew I was on a public street. And so I just did this. I did some Jedi magic, if you will. I just made the woman disappear. In my mind, she ceased to exist. Whoosh. And I just started looking right past her. In my mind, I mean, I could see her, but she wasn't there. And I stood there holding the bundle of signs, and she just wasn't there. And she got really upset by this. I'm talking to you, young man. I'm talking to you. And I'm just standing there. She wasn't there. And I just stood there and I looked right past her. I'm talking to you. Move. You can't stand here. And I just stood there. She didn't exist. And as soon as I did that, all of the energy in her voice drained because she'd lost all her power. And within 30 seconds of me doing that, me just deciding that she didn't exist, she was gone. Because she's a security guard. Security guards can't put their hands on you, especially not if you're not on the property. And if you don't acknowledge them, they don't exist. Right? And I've used that. I've done disruptions before. I've gone into stores to protest. And you just have to do that. You just have to, all the people that are trying to bother you, they just have to not exist. And that is real power. You know, I want to show you an image. You know, I'll show you a very famous image. Right, this is a really famous photograph. Right, this is a very famous photograph from the Civil Rights Movement. It's from 1957. Let me find a better version of it. I want to find you a good version of this photograph because it's a very famous photograph, but I don't want to have a small version of it. Yeah, here it is. Here's a version of it. Okay, I just want to have a version that'll fill the screen. Hold on. Very famous photograph. All right. It's a very famous photograph. I don't know if you've ever seen it before. You should have seen it. This is a very famous photograph. If you look at this photograph, this is one of the Little Rock Nine. Little Rock, Arkansas, they integrated schools. This is one of the first black students to go to a historically white high school in Little Rock, Little Rock, Arkansas. If you look at this photo, right? I mean, this whole crowd of white people are angry with her, yelling at her. The military's escorting her into the school. But if you look at this famous photograph, Who's the most powerful person in this photograph? It's the African American student, because she's just being silent. She's just being stoic, right? And this crowd of people all around her are losing their minds, and the military and all this, and she's just standing there. It has no impact on her. Imagine how difficult it was. It takes a heavy amount of psychological discipline to get yourself into the state of mind where you're not reacting. You're not reacting to anything. You just are focused on the task at hand. Like that day when I was standing there in front of the church, I was focused on the task at hand. And so I just zoned out, right? And that is what you kind of have to do if you're going to be a serious revolutionary. I'm just being honest with you. I'm giving you a word of advice. That to be a communist, an anti-imperialist, somebody who understands that the world is run by Satan, that the devil runs this world, God is in heaven, that this world is run by Satan, to be somebody who understands that Satan runs this world, to be somebody who's willing to stand up for truth and justice amid the darkness. Sometimes you have to learn to just separate yourself from it. All the noise around you, you have to be able to just not react. You have to just be able to get inside your mind and make them disappear. They don't exist. I tell my comrades, tunnel vision, comrades, tunnel vision. Focus on the task at hand. Don't get distracted. Sometimes it's fun to react. I reacted to Danke on the last stream. That was fun. But only react when it's fun. Tunnel vision. Focus. And if you're going to be a revolutionary, you have to learn to focus, because they are going to try to distract you by every means they possibly can. They're going to call you dirty names. They're going to spread rumors about you. They're going to turn your friends against you. You have to learn to just tunnel vision. If you make a mistake, learn from your mistake. Do something differently. But you have to have tunnel vision. You have to have absolute tunnel vision. Because I'm telling you, if you don't learn to have absolute tunnel vision, you're not going to last as a revolutionary. You're going to go one way, you're going to go another. And I saw a lot of people that just didn't have the stamina to be revolutionaries. I saw this year has been an interesting year. This past 12 months, I should say, not year, because it's not 2023, but a lot of people I knew who loved to be communists on the internet, who loved to imagine that they're revolutionaries, loved to read books, they just didn't have it in them. And they're gone. And I'm glad they're gone. I'm glad they're gone, because not everyone can do it. It's not easy. Look at what the Uhuru movement folks are going through. Right? Think about what their families are thinking about. Think about how they're feeling. I don't even know. They might be in custody at this point. I don't know. They could be in federal custody right now. No one has heard from them. We saw the indictment came out today. They might be sitting in a federal prison, waiting to go before a judge to see if they can get bail. We don't know where they are right now. Think about what they're going through. Think about what our comrades are going through. Think about what the people of Yemen have gone through. When I was in Djibouti, in the African country of Djibouti, I stood waiting to get my visa to go into Djibouti, at the port of Djibouti, in a whole crowd full of refugees. People had been through a huge war. People that had managed to get across the Gulf of Aden, and were trying to get to an African country, fled their homes in a war. Think about what our comrades in Donbass and the Donetsk People's Republic and the Luhansk People's Republic, think about what they've been going through for the last 8 years. You got to learn to have a tunnel vision mindset, to focus on the task at hand, to focus on being right with God, and maybe not being right with the world that's run by Satan. And it's hard. And really only you can do it. I can help you do it. I can advise you on how to do it, but I can't do it for you. But you have to learn. You have to learn to be able to make people go away like that security guard. You have to be able to not let the interference get to you, not let the noise, the background noise get to you. That's what you got to do. Because the background noise, if you acknowledge it and you don't learn, you don't develop, you don't strengthen and exercise that muscle of just making the background noise go away, you're not going to be able to pull this off. You need to develop inner strength. And that's what this social media stuff is so bad about. It's about weakening you. It's actually, social media is designed, it is modeled on addiction. Did you know that? They actually have designed social media to be stimulating the parts of your brain that function like an addict. Did you know this? It's true. An addict is a very weak person. An addict needs their fix, and if they don't get their fix, they flip out. An addict doesn't get their fix, they're dependent. And social media is designed to give you a little rush of approval. All right, you check your Facebook, you check your Twitter. Ooh, I got retweeted. Ooh, I got shared. It's designed to manipulate you. That's what it's designed to do. And it's designed to program you in order to chase the reward and avoid the punishment. And that's what social media is designed to do. It's designed to train your mind through behavior modification to follow what they say. They say go this way, you get rewarded for going this way. If they say go that way, you get rewarded for going that way. That's what social media is designed to do. And it's designed to make you think short term rather than long term. And this is very important. If you really, advice to any content creators, you really want to get ahead as a content creator, here's my advice. Find someone whose content you like or who's compatible with you and have a long-term relationship with them. Become a part of their community, make your own channel, feed off of their strength. That's how you grow, but it's a long-term strategy. Social media doesn't want you to do that. It wants you to run here and run there and run there. And if you do that, you're always going to lose. It's a lot like the stock market. On the stock market, the rule is buy low and sell high. When your stock is high, sell it. And when your stock is low, you buy it and wait for it to go up. However, your instinct on the stock market is going to be the opposite. If the stock is low, why would I buy it? It's low. The stock is high. Oh, I don't want to sell it. It's high right now. I want. You have to learn to not listen to your instincts. And if you're going to be a successful stock trader, you have to learn to buy stocks that look bad. And you have to learn to sell stocks that are doing good. But your instinct is if the stock goes down, you want to sell it immediately. And if your stock goes up, you want to keep it. But if you do that, you're never going to make any money. If you want to get ahead in social media, you have to be able to think long term. But social media does the opposite. It trains you to think short term. It trains you to think, oh my God, I got to run here. Oh my God, I do this. Oh, I got to do that. And you might get a little boost here and a little boost there, but you're never going to get anywhere. Social media trains you to be like an addict, to be a weak person who's dependent on that fix. I need social approval. I need other people to like me. That's what social media wants you to be. You need to be a strong person. And if you're going to be a revolutionary, you need to be a strong person. Look, William Z. Foster went to prison. Gus Hall went to federal prison. Eugene Debs went to prison. Martin Luther King Jr. went to prison and jail many times. You know, if you want to make big changes in this world, you got to take big risks. You got to endure hardships. And it's not for everybody. Some people aren't meant to do it, but some people are. Some people are meant to do it. And my heart goes out to the Uhuru movement, and we have got to raise holy hell. Not only do we have to raise holy hell about the Uhuru movement, we have to call out the people who aren't. All these people who claim to be so woke and so progressive, they don't give a shit about the Uhuru movement. They don't give a shit about the Uhuru movement. They're not doing anything about it. The government is indicting black revolutionaries, trying to throw them in jail, throw them in prison for years for doing nothing. Nothing but feeding people in their community. Nothing but standing up for the truth about Russia. And because of that, they want to throw them in jail, break apart their organization. The banks have been kicking them out and refusing to bank with them. I mean, it's horrible what they're doing to them. So we need to call them out, and we also need to expose what a lie wokeness is. Wokeness is just a lie. Biden doesn't care about black people any more than Obama did. Right? They're not anti-racist. They don't care about any of this stuff. They just want their profits. They're trying to set up a high-tech dark ages, a liberal fascist police state. They're justifying it with socially conscious rhetoric. But they aren't socially conscious. They don't care. And that's what we need to do, and it is our responsibility. It is our responsibility to stand in solidarity with the Uhuru movement, to raise holy hell about this case, and it's also our responsibility to condemn and call out those who don't. So I've given you all a piece of my mind. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. And I think now we will do the roll call, names and locations, who is with us tonight, names and locations, who is with us tonight, names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Who's with us? Names and locations. All right, we got Riverside County, Stephen Morris. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, Temple City, California, Lexington, Kentucky, Bendigo, Australia, David Fox, Rice, Adelaide, Australia, Lexington, Kentucky, Randall Wilson, Temple City, California, Christian in New Jersey, Funky Lollipop, John McCarthy in Chicago. That says, thank you, on point tonight. Anthony, thank you, Funky. Anthony in Detroit, Carolyn and Dario in Brooklyn, Jamie in St. Paul, Christian West in Brooklyn, New York, Mission, Mark from Mission, Texas, Lisa in Bloomington, Illinois, Phil at the Hard Rock Casino in Florida, Heidi in Edinburgh, Scotland, Lisa in Bloomington, Indiana. All right, names are going by. We got somebody in Ohio, very, very good. Kingston, London, very, very good. We got Mark from Utica, New York. We got Tony in Tasmania, Chris in Salt Lake City, Jim in Harrisburg, Anthony in Fort Worth, Texas. Very good. We got Auckland, New Zealand, Stephen Clearly, Marcos in Venezuela, Robert from Hawaii, Bob Troy, New York, Baza in Perth. Welcome, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Killian in Milwaukee, Patch in Arizona, Carl in Washington. Great, great, great. Jane in New Zealand. Right? There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. Right? We got Micah in Las Vegas. We got Hightor in Brazil. Very, very, very good. My advice, folks, don't post your address on the internet. Just a bit of advice. There you go. But yeah, I'm glad there's people watching from Brooklyn. But my advice would be don't post your address on the internet. But there you go. Kieran from San Diego is with us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Mariah in North Carolina is with us. Welcome, everybody. So glad to be here with all of you. Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome, 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 welcome. So glad to be here. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. So before I get to the super chats, I did want to play some communist music. This particular communist song, the communist group, the Revolutionary Communist Party, which was a Maoist communist group in the 70s, they've kind of deteriorated since, but back when they were still aligned with China, one of the slogans they popularized was they said, you got to change things if you want to learn things, and you got to learn things if you want to change things. And that was an expression of Mao's understanding that knowledge comes from correct practical experience, that you learn by doing. And that's a big part of Mao Zedong thought. If you read Mao's essay, where do correct ideas come from? It comes from correct practical experience. You go out and interact with the world, and that's how you learn. It's through engaging in struggle that you understand Marxism. And it's through Marxism that you learn to engage in struggle, right? You learn while you lead, and you lead while you learn, right? And from the masses to the masses, right? Unity, struggle, unity, that it's through activism, through building organizations, you come to understand Marxism. And Marxism is what guides you in building actual organizations. It's knowledge comes through practice. That's a big point in Mao Zedong thought, but it's ultimately a point in all of Marxism. So they wrote this song, Change Things, but it's by the group Prairie Fire. We played them on some previous streams, but it's a song intended to communicate this slogan that if you got to, in order to change things, you got to learn things. In order to learn things, you got to change things. So we'll put this song on, and then I'll start answering super chats.
Daddy didn't want his little girl to have hands like my mama did. So he and mama worked theirs to the bone to send me off to school instead. 'Cause they figured education's what you need to get ahead. Far away from living like you might as well be dead. Where you work your life for wages that were never meant to pay more than what it takes to stay alive. Just to work your life away. You go to school to learn, but I found you're supposed to learn to go to school. And just be grateful for the chance to stick your head inside a book and learn to follow rules. But my understanding's growing with the speed tuitions rise, with them cutting ethnic studies and promoting Shockley's lies. And I still have lots of questions that unanswered yet remain. But if I'm ever gonna learn the truth, there's got to be a change. We got to learn things if we want to change things. But we got to change things if we're gonna learn anything. We got to learn things if we want to change things. But we got to change things if we're ever gonna learn anything. Well, I looked outside and saw my fellow students demonstrating for financial aid and demanding that some bum be thrown out, saying that the system just don't make the grade. And the way they stood their ground when the police attacked their line brought to mind my daddy in the strike of '69. And I saw those people out there trying to make a change, and I realized my learning meant I had to do the same. But we got to learn things if we want to change things. But we got to change things if we're gonna learn anything. But we got to learn things if we want to change things. But we got to change things if we're ever gonna learn any little thing. Well, I know I've got a lot to learn, but I've learned a lot since I went out and got involved. Like we're up against a system that is up against a crisis it can never solve. And it's the masses of the people are making history. And I found that education ain't just learning how to read. Real learning comes by fighting, and fighting as we learn that together there is not a single table we can turn. We got to learn things if we're gonna change things. Well, we got to change things if we're gonna learn anything. And we got to learn things if we're gonna change things. Well, we got to change things if we're ever gonna learn anything. You heard me now, learn things if we wanna change things. Well, we got to change things if we're gonna learn anything. No, we got to learn things if we're gonna change things. We got to change things if we're ever gonna learn anything.
So FYI, folks, I did find some footage, not very good footage, of that day I was telling you about where we did our Wall Street is War Street demonstration. So I found 2 short little videos to show you that day I was telling you about where I had that incident with the security guard. So what do you know? Let me show you. Here's one. Not very good footage, but here you go. That's me. That's me. That's me. That's me holding the banner there. You can there you go. That was that day where we did the Wall Street is War Street thing. It's too bad they don't have more footage of that. There's a shot from another angle. It's like someone was inside the graveyard of the church, at Trinity Church, and they filmed us marching by. So it's another short clip. I'll show you. It's funny. Nowadays people film absolutely everything, but back then people didn't film things as much. But there we go. Inside the graveyard of the church. That's me in my leather jacket, holding the banner. So there you go. That is the historical record of that day I had my legendary encounter with the security guard. All right, folks. All right, so I'm going to start answering people's super chats. People have more super chats, just shoot them my way. First question: thoughts on the guy who shot the African-American young man? Well, look, it's clear a crime has been committed. It's not a crime to knock on the wrong door in a neighborhood, and this young man shouldn't have been killed. Looks to me like this was murder, if not manslaughter. But we'll obviously have to find out the facts of the case. I don't know the facts of the case. I'll be honest with you. I know that it appears this young man was shot for knocking on the wrong door. And if that's the case, that's murder. And the person, who charged him, the person who shot him should be held accountable for that. The way the media is spinning it, they're not spinning it in a way that's about bringing healing, though. And that's the thing. They accuse the Uhuru movement of sowing discord. And it's like they're the ones sowing discord. They're the ones on there, trying to incite, we're going to take their guns away. We're going to, if you tell a section of our population that firearms is a big part of their culture, you're going to take their guns away. That's sowing discord. Right? If you're stirring up, what they're doing with the January 6th defendants. They're doing everything they can to sow discord. They are sowing discord. Meanwhile, the Uhuru movement is doing the opposite. They're bringing people together. But sure, if the details of the case are, are as I understand them, which I haven't done a huge amount of research, but if they are as I understand them, which is this young man was in a neighborhood, he went to the wrong door, someone saw him in the neighborhood, they didn't like him, and they shot him. Well, obviously they should be put in jail for that because, you know, you can't shoot somebody for that reason. Does that mean we should take everyone's firearms away, that firearms should be illegal? Obviously not. You know, and is there a racial component? Sounds like it, right? This is an African-American young man. I mean, you know, but I don't know all the details of the case. And look, when it came to that case in, the case, Kyle Rittenhouse, I thought I knew about that case. And the more I dug into that case, the more I realized I didn't know about that case, right? And the more the details that came out, at the time that came out, I was neutral. You know, at first, my initial instinct was, oh, this is one of these right-wing assholes who hates protesters, you know, and he just wanted to go kill him some leftists. And the more I looked at, and then as the went to the trial, I realized, oh, I didn't know what I was talking about here, you know, and I thought this Kyle guy had killed some black activists. I thought he was a vigilante, and the more I dug into the case, the more I realized I didn't, you know, and I didn't even say anything about it, right? And that what's scary is that when I saw people like Jimmy Dore and other people saying, you don't really know what's going on here, that's when I started going, oh, maybe, but none of these leftists did that. They all just saw this was the trendy issue on CNN, you know, the Communist Party USA, PSL, all of them just decided, oh, nope, the trendy thing to do, be a good Democrat. And I was horrified by it. So there you go. They want discord. The ruling class of the United States is intentionally sowing discord right now. And that's what we need to understand. All right, next question. All right. Liberal fascists are trying to send a message. Exactly. And that's why we all need to speak up around this case. And like no one has any grounds for calling themselves an anti-racist or an anti-fascist or a progressive or a communist or a socialist if they're not speaking up for the Uhuru movement. It's beyond me. I'm one of the only, CPI is like one of the only communist groups that has dared speak up for the Uhuru movement. And we are attacked as white supremacists. There's a group of black revolutionaries who feed their people, who provide services to their people. The American government is going after them. We speak up for them, and we get called white supremacists. But the people who support the American government and going after them, the people who support the white American power structure and going after the Uhuru movement, they get a pass. I mean, wake up, people, wake up. All right. Someone said black red guards theory. Who cares what that guy said? Who cares? What has that guy ever done? Right? He's just some guy on the internet who calls people racist or something. You know, like what did that guy even say about it? What did he say about the Uhuru movement? What did black red guards say about it? And who cares? I'm mildly amused. If someone can fill me in, I didn't notice. I was reading the actual details of the case. I was talking to people on the phone about it. I was researching, trying to find out what to do in light of this indictment. I was concerned about how this actually matters in the real world. I wasn't paying attention to what Black Red Guard was saying. What did he say? What did Black Red Guard say about this case? I'm sure he supports it somehow, right? Because I bet he thinks Uhuru were Nazis somehow or something, right? I mean, what did he say? Right? You know, oh, they support Russia, so therefore they're neo-fascists or something. Who cares? But what did he say? I'm mildly amused. If someone wants to fill me in on what Black Red Guard said, I'd be mildly amused, but I don't see anyone in the chat sharing that. So I don't know what Black Red Guard said about the Uhuru movement, and I don't care. And at the end of the day, none of these people really matter, all right? Because they're not building any real organizations, right? Exactly. They're not building any real organizations, right? They're just being on the internet going, I'm so cool. Look how revolutionary I am. I'm wearing a revolutionary costume. I'm so revolutionary. It's like, it's a LARP. It's an internet meme. It's commodification. It's, you know, it's a joke, and these people don't matter. All right. The Boston Marathon prohibited Russians and Belarusians this year. Liberals are out of control and arrests are coming. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, we have to stand shoulder to shoulder, because if they come for one of us, they have to deal with all of us. And if we are divided in the face of this, if we don't learn to stand shoulder to shoulder amid these attacks, we're all going to crumble, right? If we learned anything from McCarthyism, from COINTELPRO is that when they come for one of us, we all have to oppose it. It's just common sense. And that, all these people on the internet who, all they have to do is make a silly video about somebody and then they support the government arresting them. People like that are scum. But all of us who are really serious, we have to learn to stand shoulder to shoulder and not let them come for any of us. All right. Is this indictment laying the groundwork for prosecutions under the Restrict Act? Maybe. The thing is, the Restrict Act may or may not pass. We shall see. There's pretty solid opposition to the Restrict Act among both Democrats and Republicans. Rand Paul is against it. Marjorie Taylor Greene is against it. Tulsi Gabbard is against it. Well, she's not in Congress, but also in addition to that, AOC is against it. Bernie Sanders is against the Restrict Act. There's no guarantee the Restrict Act will pass. I think it'll be close. I think they're going to try to pass it because they're framing it as wanting to outlaw TikTok, and they've got all these people convinced that it's like, TikTok is cringe. This is what they do. Right? This is what they do. It's like, it doesn't matter if TikTok is cringe. This law would take away all your rights. That they are really good at these psychological operations where if you hate somebody on the internet, it makes it okay. Everything is okay. Everything the government does is okay if you hate somebody on the internet. Yeah, I've seen libs of TikTok, and yeah, a lot of the liberals on TikTok are annoying. But should we then outlaw the app? Like, come on, people, come on. So there you go. There you go. And the implications of the Restrict Act. Well, it would outlaw using a VPN, right? If you use a VPN to get around it. That's a good question. If you use a VPN, that would be like a felony. It would give the government the right to seize anything. It would give, without any due process, the Department of Commerce could declare anything to be an asset of Venezuela or China or Iran or Russia or Cuba or whatever country they want to go after. And then they just take your stuff immediately. And if you try to get around it, they throw you in jail. It's like it basically gives them the right to seize all your property in the name of fighting foreign influence. It is like kiss your civil liberties goodbye, the Restrict Act. It's unbelievable, unbelievable. Do you believe the Geneva Convention will ever be applied to U.S. war crimes? Well, there may come a time, I think, when the tide has turned, where they do start holding the U.S. accountable. The International Criminal Court was starting to look into U.S. war crimes in Afghanistan, and the U.S. establishment lost their minds over that. Even though the United States helped set up the criminal court, even though they helped set it up, they were horrified that they might actually have to face charges against in it. So there you go. What you talk about with the Uhuru movement is doing is called what Lenin called dual power. Exactly. Revolution is not simply destruction. Revolution is building up a new system. It's building up an alternative power structure. And that's what these people don't understand. The Bolsheviks built the Soviets. They built community assemblies. And that is what is a real threat to the power structure. And this just chaotic hashtag revolution, it doesn't do that. Go and read about the process of revolution and what Lenin wrote on dual power. And John says that, yeah, O'Malley calls it dual power and that he's a student of Lenin, and he absolutely is. So, U.S. troops in Taiwan. Yes, they're there to train. They're trainers, right? And this is how they started with the Vietnam War. They said, oh, they're just training it. They're just trainees. They're just training them. They're not actually fighting. But that's how it started in Vietnam. You have to remember, they were just military advisors to Vietnam. They were advising, helping the Vietnamese fight the communists, and then eventually it was U.S. troops. And this is a disaster, right? And who's going to suffer the most? The people on Taiwan. And that's the craziest thing about this. Like, they claim, it's just like with Ukraine. They claim, oh, we care about the Ukrainians. Who's suffering the most? The Ukrainians. Oh. And if China ends up in a situation where it feels like it has to go into Taiwan, who's going to suffer? The people on the island of Taiwan. And they're going to play a violin. Oh, those poor people. But they're playing with these people's lives, right? They know they're trying their hardest to provoke China to retake the island of Taiwan. That's what they're doing. And then they're going to sit back and go, oh, see, that's what, it's awful. It's utterly awful. It's utterly awful what they're doing. And that people let them get away with this. Oh, they're so concerned. And you can bet, that if it ends up being a situation where China goes into Taiwan, they're all going to have their Taiwan flags out there, and all the liberals are going to be playing their violin for Taiwan, and anyone who's pro-China is going to be demonized. And it's like, guys, the USA did this. just like in Ukraine. The USA did this. If you care about Ukrainians, you care about people on the island of Taiwan, don't provoke a war that gets them all killed. Kind of common sense. All right. Hey, Caleb, most communists aren't communists. They're just LARPers. Well, you know, the word LARP, right? By the way, that's on a list of things we're not allowed to say. Did you know that? Right? The FBI has a list of words they consider to be extremist words. One of them is LARP. Oh, that's a good one. You know, one of the words you're not allowed to say is a LARP. LARP, right? It's short for live action role play. And it was when people dress up as their favorite characters from Dungeons and Dragons or Dragon Ball Z or whatever. It's called, you know, live action role play. And it's become a slang term for people who do things that are not really activism. They're just kind of playing dress up. That's what LARP kind of has come to mean, which is what a lot of people in the United States who call themselves communists are doing, right? They're playing dress up, right? You know, they take a picture of themselves and they're like people, their Red Army hat or whatever, and they don't understand what the real practice actually means, which is not dressing up in silly costumes. It means you actually build community, build relationships, challenge the power structure, take real risks, have other people relying on you, right? And that LARPing, you know, is live action role play. But there's a whole list now that the FBI says we're not allowed to use. Right? They've listed the extremist language. Based, you're not allowed to say based. You're not allowed to say red pilled. You know, it's so stupid. It's just words that people use. Anyway, but yes, most people in the United States who call themselves communists are not in any organization. All they're doing is they're getting on the internet and trying to, you know, take this on as a commodified identity. Meanwhile, I have worked very, very hard to break with the identity of being a communist and actually get out of the movement to the masses. Be patriotic, for example, you know, because we should love the country. Socialism is not making the country better. I've emphasized Christianity because Christianity and communism have a huge overlap, and the USA is a deeply Christian country. But these people, the people who just want to LARP, like, you're ruining the fun, Caleb. You know, I want to dress up like a silly character. I don't want to be myself. I don't want to do this in a way that would actually win. I want to put on a costume and, you know, LARPing. There you go. Can you speak up on the history of the DPRK after the war? Right. Well, the northern half of the Korean Peninsula was liberated by Soviet troops. The southern half of the Korean Peninsula, you know, was, you know, the United States and their allies and former Japanese collaborators set up. There was supposed to be elections for the entire peninsula where every political party was able to participate. And that was the idea. But then the United States, with the Marshall Plan and Syngman Rhee, they declared that that wasn't going to happen. Syngman Rhee became the military dictator of South Korea. And then the people on Jeju Island, which was a stronghold of communist sympathy, started protesting, demanding elections, free elections, and they were massacred. There was a brutal massacre at Jeju Island. And so in response to that, the North said, all right, our country folk are being massacred. We're going to have to intervene. You know, and that is when North Korea, and actually people debate who fired the first shot. It may have been that North Korea was attacked first. So I'm not even saying that they fired the first shot, but there was a massacre, the Jeju massacre, the Jeju Island massacre. They slaughtered thousands of people because they were protesting for democratic rights. There was an uprising on Jeju Island, April 3rd, 1948. Now, here, I'll drop it. The Jeju uprising, where these people, they were protesting to demand that they have an election and they get to vote for the Workers' Party, for the Communist Party, right? Because they wanted the right to have an election where every party would participate. And in response to that, there was a brutal, brutal massacre. It was horrendous what was done. What was done, and the U.S. government was involved. There was heavy U.S. involvement in the massacre at Jeju Island, where thousands of people were killed. The USA occupied Jeju Island during the war. There were horrendous atrocities committed by U.S. soldiers on the Korean Peninsula. Horrendous atrocities. And it was in response to that North Korea felt like, okay, half of our country is occupied. We were fighting Japan for decades. Japan has been occupying the country, right? Japan just lost the war. And now the people who collaborated with Japan are still in control of the southern half. First of all, and second of all, now they're killing the people in the southern part of the Korean Peninsula who agree with us. We got to move in and reunify our country, right? And it's like the narrative when people talk about North Korea, and this is the sad thing when they talk about the Korean War in the United States. This is what they tell you. I kid you not. The North invaded the South, as if North Korea and South Korea have always, like, eternally been separate countries. Oh, well, the North Korea, the Korean War happened because the North invaded the South. That would be like saying that, the U.S. Civil War happened because Abraham Lincoln invaded the South. Like, there was one country, and there were two governments in that country, and one of the governments in that country started killing all the people who agreed with the other government. So at that point, they tried to reunify. Yeah, it's like, oh, well, North Korea invaded South Korea. Like, there was no North Korea and South Korea back then. There was one Korea that had been occupied by Japan. Japan had been brutalizing and torturing people and using women as sex slaves and doing awful things. Japan lost the war, and the Korean people were finally excited that they would get to have their own government. And then they formed their own government in the northern part of the country. And then the southern part of the country, all the people that had been Japan's puppets were back in power, except the USA was now their boss. And then the people that said, hey, I thought we were going to get to have a free election, all got killed. And at that point, North Korea said, the northern folks said, all right, we're going to go in and try to rescue the southern folks. And that's what happened, right? And it was awful. And every single building above 1 story high was bombed. They bombed the dikes and flooded areas. And the U.S. Air Force people were complaining. They're like, there's nothing left for us to bomb. They would go on bombing raids. They couldn't find any buildings because they bombed so much. There were places where, there were children hiding in basements, and the U.S. soldiers would take big canisters of gasoline and dump them into the basement, and just pour the gasoline into the basement and light it on fire and burn these children alive in basements. You know what I mean? That was a thing that happened. I mean, there's a documentary called The Unknown War that was made about the Korean War. And they showed it on BBC, and they refused to show it on American television because they said American audiences couldn't handle it, right? But go and read Bruce Cummings. Bruce Cummings, the great Korea scholar, probably the top scholar of Korean history in America. Dr. Bruce Cummings speaks Korean fluently, visits both North and South Korea frequently. And he very much has shown the horrors of that war. People have no idea how horrendous the Korean War was. And it was 4 million people in North Korea were killed in a country that's like 20 million people, right? Do the math. That's like a very big percentage of the population. All right. Can you speak to Bukele in El Salvador? I think Bukele is great. I think that the other party that he defeated is actually technically, right? Was it I forget the name, the ESLN, or there's technically a socialist party. They were in power a long time and things weren't changing. Bukele, it seems like he's building infrastructure. I mean, he's really a Bonapartist of some type that is really moving El Salvador in a good direction. I like Bukele a lot. I mean, he's building things. He's providing services for people. He's fighting the drug gangs. He's a Bonapartist, but he's pivoting El Salvador to be in alliance with the anti-imperialist countries. And I like Bukele. And of course, any strong leader who stands up to them, they're going to call him a dictator, an authoritarian, right? They want weak governments they can just kick over and get their way. But Bukele is a Bonapartist, and I've been to El Salvador, and I mean, he's really improving life in El Salvador. I mean, he's doing that. He's fighting the drug lords. He's building hospitals and airports and schools. Bukele is doing a pretty good job for a very poor country in Central America. He's doing a damn good job. And it's weird because the Marxist party is the opposition party there, but they were in power for a long time and they weren't changing anything. They were calling themselves socialists and talking a left game, but they weren't really doing anything. The Sandinistas, they're really socialists, and they've been changing Nicaragua, Venezuela, right? Real socialism. But Yeah, for a long time, that left government in El Salvador, they were in there and they were just so corrupt and the drug gangs and all that, they weren't doing anything. But yet Bukele comes in there and he's technically not a communist, technically not a socialist, but he comes in there and he does more than the actual socialists do. So there you go. Right. You know, socialism isn't what you say, it's what you do. And I mean, that's same for fascism, right? What you say, anyone can say anything. Anyone can say anything. But what matters is what you actually do. Anyone can say they're for anything, they believe in anything, but it matters what you do. Right now, there are people all over the United States, people all over the world who call themselves communists that are on the wrong side in Ukraine, they're on the wrong side in Taiwan, they're on the wrong side in America supporting the FBI. Well, they can say they're for communism, but look what they do. Meanwhile, around the world, there are all kinds of people that don't believe in communism, you know, that are Muslims, that are Russian nationalists, that are Bolivarians, that are whatever, and they are on the right side and they're raising their people up out of poverty. They're controlling the means of production. It's not about what ideology you profess, you proclaim to believe in. It's about what you do. That's what actually matters. And that, you know, and the ruling class, that's what actually matters to them also. They don't care what you say. They care what you do. That's why they're going after the Uhuru movement, because they're building a real organization. They don't care. You know, people are on the internet, oh, I'm so revolutionary. Yeah, but you're not doing anything. They're doing something. And that's why they're going after them. They're building real infrastructure in the Black community, and they're really anti-imperialist, and that's why they're going after them. Thoughts on the Ohio train derailment. American infrastructure is falling apart. And that train derailment that happened was because the private railroad companies are trying to milk as much profit out of the railroad workers as they can. And they're not, you know, they're cutting back on safety, and they've got a free pass from the American government. They've been deregulated. They're being protected. And at the same time, our infrastructure is falling apart. The railroad unions are calling for full nationalization of the railroads in the United States. And honestly, we ought to hire the Chinese. The China Railway Corporation makes the best trains in the world. We ought to hire the Chinese to fix America's railroads. That's what we ought to do. It is a threat to public health, but they don't want, you know, I mean, railroads, the big oil companies don't like that. They want everyone driving trucks and cars. But there's a reason that hazardous substances are transported on railroads, because do you know how many car accidents there are? It's much safer, in theory, to have them on railroads. But if the railroads are falling apart, not so much. There's been 8 or 9 train derailments. I mean, it's unbelievable. Our country is falling apart, and they spend money on wars and bombs and tanks while the country is falling apart. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's like they're always happy to start a new war, but when it comes to actually taking care of Americans, they're not doing anything. And then they call people like me who don't want us to get into a new war, they call us traitors. They say, oh, we're foreigners. It's like, we want this country to get better. We want America to stop sending bombs and tanks and weapons to other countries and actually build schools and hospitals and better railroads here in America. We are the ultimate patriots. We are the ultimate patriots. They call us foreign agents. We are the ultimate patriots. We say jobs and schools and healthcare. We say America should team up with China, team up with Russia to have a strong economy. There is a group of international bankers and big corporations that don't give a shit about America. They don't give a shit about anywhere else. They're trying to grind the world into poverty so they can make super profits. And that's who I'm against. And I'm loyal to my country, my people. I want America to be a stronger country. I want living standards here to go up. So there you go. Do you think violent revolution can come to America? And what do you think of pacifism? Well, could it come to America? Sure, but you really don't want it to. Anyone who's ever lived through a violent revolution will tell you how awful it is. And if you're a serious Marxist, you should not advocate a violent revolution. You should advocate a peaceful transition. You should have the understanding that a violent revolution may happen, but it will happen because the ruling class forces it. The ruling class demands it. The ruling class won't allow a peaceful transition. But you should want a peaceful transition. You should not advocate a violent revolution. Right? And as far as nonviolence, pacifism is concerned, look, I will say this, and no one ever points this out. Pacifists are some of the most heroic and bold people ever. Pacifism means you will not inflict violence. That's what it means. Doesn't mean you won't receive violence. Doesn't mean you won't put yourself in harm's way and risk. And a lot of people that say they're pacifists, they engage in nonviolence, don't get themselves arrested. Don't engage, don't do heroic militant things. That's not pacifism. Pacifism is a moral stance, usually justified by religion, Quakerism, Buddhism, or whatever, that they themselves will never inflict violence, even in the form of self-defense. That's what it means. Fine. But, Quakers, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Buddhists, and others, some of those people, during the Vietnam War, there were pacifists who blocked the train tracks for troop trains. There was a guy who lost both of his legs because he and thousands of other Vietnam War protesters sat on the tracks to block train tracks that were sending soldiers to Vietnam. And this guy didn't get out of the way and quick enough, and he lost both of his legs. Now, those people were pacifists, but you can't say those people weren't brave. You can't say they weren't heroic. You can't say they didn't take risks, but they just had a moral feeling that they will never inflict violence. And that's really important because I'm really tired of people saying they're pacifists, and that's a justification for not doing anything, right? That pacifism doesn't mean you don't take risks. Pacifism doesn't mean, I gotcha. Pacifism doesn't mean you don't make sacrifices. Pacifism doesn't mean you're not confrontational. Pacifists can be very confrontational, right? There's that quote from Mario Savio, who was the leader of the free speech movement at Berkeley. And he said, there comes a time where the operation of the machine becomes so odious that you can't even passively take part, that you've got to throw yourself on the gears and on the wheels. And you got to make clear to those who run it and those who own it that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from running at all. That's pacifism. Plenty of pacifist people have occupied factories. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he was a pacifist. He had no problem occupying lunch counters. And his followers would go into those lunch counters and sit there. And those lunch counters that refused to serve black people, and they would sit there until the police dragged them away. They weren't inflicting violence, but they were being confrontational. They were going into someone else's store, sitting down and saying, you won't serve me because I'm black. Well, I'm going to sit here and I'm not going to get up. And I'm going to disrupt your business, and that is very different than pacifism is not the same as being passive. Pacifism is not the same as being non-confrontational. One can be a pacifist and be very confrontational. One can be a pacifist and be very defiant and rebellious and resistive. And that's what people need to understand. And that, being a pacifist in and of itself does not mean that one is not willing to take great risks and take great sacrifices, to be very disruptive and all that. It just means one takes a moral religious stance against any inflicting of pain on somebody else. And that's the important thing to remember. And that it's widely misunderstood. So I think that that's an important point that needs to be made. So yeah, there you go. And that, you're asking me, is nonviolent revolution possible? I don't have a crystal ball. I will tell you this much, right? Read my new book. I talk about how there is a layer within the United States that is becoming almost like a national bourgeoisie that is against what the global financial order is doing and has a financial interest in aligning with Russia and China, that ultimately is going to come into confrontation with the rest of the ruling class of the United States, and that is going to need the working class to have their back. And there are going to be Bonapartist struggles within the ruling class, and the basis for a real anti-monopoly coalition is forming. And would it be possible for this anti-monopoly coalition to take power peacefully? I think so. But would it be able to then hold on to power? Would the coalition last, or what would happen after that? I don't know. But is it possible that we could have an anti-monopoly president elected? At some point in the future, I think that is possible. I think if the U.S. economy continues to get worse, as the capitalists begin fighting among themselves, I think it's likely that some kind of someone within the military will emerge who wants to make the U.S. economy get better, and would run on a platform of fixing the U.S. economy, and would be wanting to make deals with Russia and China to fix the U.S. economy. I think that's very likely. Now, that person, in order to get into office, would have to build up a lot of support among the working class. They'd have to mobilize the population to have their back. And I think it's possible that we could have a Bonapartist someone who's like Trump, but not like Trump, someone who's much more of an anti-imperialist than Trump and much more of a populist than Trump take power. I think that's possible. Would they be able to stay in power? That's the question. But I think it's very possible that some kind of Bonapartist who wants the U.S. economy to grow and breaks with the big monopolies in order to do so could get elected. I think that's very possible. And it would have to come from within the power structure, probably within the military. But then when they took office, would they be able to implement their program? Would their coalition fracture? I don't know. But is it possible that we could have an anti-monopoly coalition take power, get elected in the United States? Based on the balance of forces, I think it is possible. But that might then start a chain of events that leads to something else. But there you go. There you go. So on that note, folks, before I go tonight, I want to show you, we've been posting the different videos from our CPI conference. Thoughts on Pat Tillman. Okay. I'll answer that. I'll do that next after. I just want to show this video. This is a video. It's like a short video I made that's kind of like a quick summary of the opening of our recent CPI conference. Because that video of our opening of our CPI conference is full 20 minutes, but I made a short video to kind of show the opening of our conference.
CPI a year or so ago, the 4-point program made a lot of sense. Mass mobilization to rebuild the country, public control of banking, public ownership of natural resources, economic bill of rights by Roosevelt. You don't need to be a communist to agree to them.
The protest was held in Times Square in New York City, and Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, mentioned it in a speech several hours after it happened.
Hoy ya en Estados Unidos hubo la primera marcha, la primera movilización en Nueva York. Allá.
I'm speaking on behalf of the Center for Political Innovation. I was sent here on behalf of Caleb Maupin.
The March 2022 conference featured a number of prominent social media personalities and was packed full of people. The website trutherfiction.com had to put up a page clarifying that the anti-imperialist gathering featuring the Soviet flag, the U.S. flag, and the flag of the Donetsk People's Republic was indeed real and not an internet hoax. It's our own edition of the Green Book by Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. The CPI edition is the top-selling and top-rated version of the book on Amazon, and over 2,000 copies have been sold or distributed. CPI published the book Kamala Harris and the Future of America, an investigation into the woman who became the U.S. Vice President, which included her background and psychological profile. The book was widely reviewed in not only U.S. publications, but in print magazines in the UK and India. One of the main organizations that has worked against the Center for Political Innovation is the Communist Party USA. Ironically, CPI largely does the kind of educational work that the Communist Party fails to do. It is a well-documented historical fact that the Communist Party USA has been under the complete control of the FBI since at least 1958, if not earlier. Boris Childs, the top FBI informant inside the Communist Party National Board, received the Presidential Medal of Freedom for his work controlling the Communist Party and using it to feed disinformation to the Soviet Union. CPI maintains that it is necessary to reinvent socialism and pull away from these forces. As Lenin said, we seek to go lower and deeper to the real masses. One point must also be made on behalf of the board of directors, and this is that Caleb Maupin is our ideological leader. CPI is a result of Caleb Maupin's vision for building an organization, and we recognize his unique approach to building 21st century socialism. Though CPI is much more than any one personality, we don't take for granted his pioneering efforts in understanding and applying Marxism, Leninism, anti-imperialism, and even Christianity. His place as our ideological leader and visionary shouldn't be understated, and we are proud that he has this place in our organization. Thanks, Caleb. If you feel you have a contribution to make, please join our organization. We will do our best to connect you immediately and put you to work. We want you to have a voice and we want to empower you.
So there you go. Join the Center for Political Innovation. That's what we're all about. That's what we're all about. Ragnarok Lobster is K-Hive. They work for the DNC. Okay, so quickly, Pat Tillman. Well, Pat Tillman, he was a football player who joined the U.S. military after 9/11, and he was killed by friendly fire. And then, if I'm not mistaken, the U.S. government kind of covered up that it was friendly fire that killed him. There was a lawsuit by his family, right? It was just another awful situation. I mean, you know, Afghanistan didn't attack us on 9/11, and he was, you know, he was patriotic. He wanted to help the country. He was a football player, and you know, he was like most people in the U.S. military. Look, let me get this out of my system, right? This must be said. Stop bashing the military. I'm serious, right? I'm dead serious, right? Oppose the wars, oppose U.S. foreign policy, but like we really need to make a rule. Like, don't even oppose military recruitment. I'm at the point where I don't even think you should protest military recruitment events. The U.S. military is our best hope at this point, right? It is the biggest entity in this country. It's tied in economically, you know, to a whole network of corporations. And at this point, all of the voices that are like, let's get along better with Russia and China are coming out of the military. Tulsi Gabbard, Michael Flynn, McGregor, Scott Ritter. I'm just telling you, right? So we need to oppose U.S. foreign policy. Absolutely oppose U.S. foreign policy. But we need to constantly be trying to communicate a message of support to the military, right? Not to what they do, not to the wars they wage, etc., but to the people in the military. We need to be communicating to the people in the military that, you know, you love your country, you're patriotic people, you're responsible people, you're upstanding citizens, you're, you know, you want to help your country, we love you, you know. We need to communicate that the military are good people, that they have good intentions, and that there are people using them for bad purposes, which is not the purpose that they signed up for. That's what we need to be communicating. All of this crap that I constantly hear, you know, of, you know, like people, you know, I'm at the point where, you know, I'm not excited about young people joining the military. You know, I'm not excited about AOC having a recruitment workshop. And, you know, she lied about them. She certainly lied, you know, no question about it. She lied to the, she lied to, you know, to the media about the, what do you call it? The organization. So, you know, about the protest against it. And I think it's despicable how AOC smeared the people that protested against the military workshop. We got to support them. But in my personal view, I think that anything that looks like it's hostile to the military itself should stop. I'm just being honest with you. Oppose U.S. foreign policy, but anything that looks like we are against the military as an institution must stop. That is my advice. Because, again, it might sound crazy, but read my book. I'm just telling you, the only hope, the biggest hope right now for forming some kind of anti-monopoly coalition to get us out of the danger of New World War is there's going to be people in the military brass. And that doesn't make any sense, right? And that's contrary, but I'm just telling you right now. Look at Tulsi Gabbard, look at McGregor, look at Scott Ritter. And this doesn't make any sense. And I'm not saying that this isn't the U.S. imperialist state. And I'm not saying I reject the Leninist theory of the state. I'm saying to you that we have to think strategically right now. Anything that comes across as we're against the military as an institution must stop. Okay? I'm just telling you. Oppose U.S. foreign policy. Say, bring the troops home. Oppose the politicians that are sending to war. But we need to be as friendly to the actual military as an institution as we can be. I'm just telling you, we have to be, right? We need to come across as if we love the U.S. military, and we do. I mean, we love the people in it. We don't like what they're sent to do around the world. But honestly, I think that right now, some of the best anti-imperialist voices, which have their flaws, are not perfect, are within the military. And my advice is we need to find a way to try to make allies within the U.S. military, because they're holding back Biden at this point. Okay, let's just be real. The generals are holding back Biden. Right? It used to be the generals were more militaristic and the Democrats were holding them back. The generals are holding, the military-industrial complex is holding back Biden at this point. And that doesn't make any sense, I know. But I'm just telling you, there has been a weird shift. And the people who want war now are the globalists. It's the Rockefellers, it's the big banks, it's the Brzezinski foreign policy people. They're the ones that want all-out war. And it's the military that are saying, Joe, hello, calm down. You know, look how, remember when Donald Trump attacked Iran and murdered Qasem Soleimani and Iran retaliated? Take a look at that video. Look how angry the generals looked at Donald Trump for doing that. Those generals were all standing behind him. They're like, Donald Trump, you just started World War III. You have no idea what you're doing. They were furious with Donald Trump. The generals at this point don't want to have a war. It doesn't make any sense. I know it doesn't make any sense. This is a bizarre time we're living in. That doesn't mean we support the U.S. imperialist state. We don't. We oppose. We want a new state, a new military on socialist principles, etc. But I'm telling you that we are living in strange times, very, very strange times, and that the hope for an anti-monopoly coalition, a lot of it's going to come out of the U.S. military, and that doesn't make any sense. And that doesn't mean we should never support what the U.S. military does. We should be 100% anti-imperialist, anti-interventionist, etc. But we need to be strategic, and we need to stop criticizing the military as an institution. We need to show love for the U.S. military. You know, I mean, we need to. I mean, there's no way around it. You know, and that sounds weird. It doesn't make any sense, but we are in strange, strange times, folks. We are in strange, strange times. So, next question. This Ragnarok lobster is K-high. Well, I mean, that makes sense because I've gone after Kamala Harris. And no one talks about Kamala Harris's father and his Marxist economics and his break with her. My book on Kamala Harris. My book on Kamala Harris is a huge, huge deal. And no one else. When Barack Obama ran for president, we learned all about his father and his childhood and his mother. No one says anything about Kamala Harris. She's one heart attack, one heartbeat, one mistaken heartbeat away from being president. No one knows anything about her family background and all of that. I know all about Kamala Harris. And she was cultivated by American intelligence agencies, the synthetic left. And she was trained in the synthetic left as a child. And then she became a vicious, sadistic prosecutor. She's a person who sees herself as a victim, has absolutely no ethics. She wants to harm people to show the world that little girl was me. She's a vicious, sadistic person. And her family has cut ties with her. And she hates her father, who's a Marxist. And, I mean, read my book. And there's a reason. I'm sure Kamala Harris is pissed about that book being out there. And I know for a fact that her staff has read it. So there you go. I wish we would use the U.S. military to rebuild U.S. infrastructure, fight fires in homes. Perhaps exactly, Stephen. And I think that's what most people in the U.S. military would rather do. Polls show overwhelmingly that's what people in the Army want to do. That's what people in the military want to do. They're not bad people. They don't join the Army because they want to kill innocent people or kill children in some other country. They join the military because they want to serve their country. And most of them would rather be fighting fires at home, building infrastructure at home. So they want to do it. We would rather they do that. But let's find common ground. Because stakes are getting higher, folks. Stakes are getting higher. I'm going to now put on the closing music. It's been fun, folks. I will probably be back tomorrow night. Tomorrow's going to be a wild day. I'm going to be on a lot of shows tomorrow, it looks like. I'll be on Convo Couch tomorrow afternoon. Tune in for that. Probably going on another show. It looks like I'll be on with Kim Iverson as well tomorrow. It's going to be a full day. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be wild, but, you know, you have to do what's right, you know, and you can't turn down any opportunity to spread the message to a wider audience. You got to do what's right. So it's going to be a wild day for me tomorrow. We'll see how it goes.
Upsurge in the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today.